Welcome to this in-depth journey into one of the most mysterious and psychologically profound texts of Western esotericism, the Rosarium Philosophorum, or the Rosary of the Philosophers. This is not merely a historical alchemical manuscript. It's a map of the soul's transformation, a visual drama of death, rebirth, and ultimate integration. Through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung's analytical psychology, we will uncover how the Rosarium reveals not just alchemical processes, but profound truths about the psyche, the unconscious, and what Jung called the individuation process that we will explore all four major alchemical stages, Nigredo, Albedo, Citrinitas, and Rubedo, in both symbolic and psychological terms. Using the Rosarium's 20 iconic woodcut images as our guide, the Rosarium Philosophorum was first published in 1550 in Frankfurt and became one of the most important symbolic texts in the European alchemical tradition. Its 20 woodcut images, paired with cryptic commentary, portray the stages of the alchemist's great work, or Magnum Opus. But Jung understood that these stages were not simply about refining metals. The imagery was a symbolic expression of psychic transformation long before modern psychology gave us terms like the unconscious, the ego, or the self. Alchemy, he argued, was an unconscious, projective form of inner work, the soul speaking. In the language of image, dream, and myth, Jung wrote extensively about the Rosarium in works such as Psychology and Alchemy, Mysterium Coniunctionis, and Symbols of Transformation. He argued that alchemists projected their unconscious contents onto matter, interpreting inner experiences as chemical reactions. The alchemical imagery, then, is best read as symbolic of internal psychic states. The chemical operations, calcination, dissolution, coagulation, mirror the processes of disintegration, purification, and integration within the soul. In this sense, the Rosarium is not a chemistry book, but a book of the psyche. Each woodcut is a scene in a deeply symbolic drama. The series begins with duality, the king and queen, and moves through death, dismemberment, purification, union, birth, and eventual integration. These stages mirror what Jung called the individuation process, the path toward becoming a psychologically whole person. Let's now walk through these stages using Jungian interpretation to unpack the deeper meaning of each phase. The first phase is Nigredo, the blackening. In alchemical tradition, it signifies putrefaction, the decay of matter to its most basic, chaotic form. In psychological terms, it corresponds to the disintegration of the ego and the confrontation with the shadow that I in the Rosarium. The king and queen, representing the solar and lunar forces, are brought together, but this union leads not to harmony, but to destruction. They die, they dissolve. Jung interpreted this as the necessary breaking down of a false or incomplete identity. Nigredo can manifest in our lives as depression, spiritual crisis, burnout, or existential collapse. It's the moment when the structures we've depended on fail, and something deeper is called forth. The encounter with the shadow is the apprentice piece in the individual's development. After darkness comes cleansing. Albedo, or the whitening, follows Nigredo. Here, the chaotic material is purified. It's the stage of washing, of insight, of beginning to understand what was revealed in the darkness that I in the Rosarium. This is shown through bathing rituals, the reemergence of purified figures, and moments of spiritual renewal. Psychologically, it's when we begin to separate from unconscious patterns and reflect on what we've learned. The ego becomes more aware, more receptive to the inner world. This is also where the anima and animus, the inner soul image, begin to be integrated. There is a budding recognition of inner polarity and the emergence of spiritual awareness. But Jung warned of a trap here, the illusion that insight alone is transformation. Albedo is clarity, not yet completion. The next stage, Citrinitas, is often left out in later alchemical systems, but Jung recognized its deep importance. This is the awakening of inner wisdom, the embodiment of clarity and direction. The Rosarium subtly evokes this through solar symbols and the gradual rising of golden light. Jung associated this with the appearance of the wise old man archetype, inner guidance that emerges not from intellect, but from deep contact with the self. Citrinitas is a spiritual dawn. Where Albedo brings reflection, Citrinitas begins the integration of that reflection into action, into a new orientation. Life becomes meaningful again, not as dogma, but as deep, embodied knowing. And then comes Rubedo, the final stage, the reddening, the culmination. Here, the opposites are fully integrated. The masculine and feminine are no longer in tension, but in creative union. The self is born in the image of the divine child, a symbol of psychological wholeness. In the Rosarium, this is depicted in scenes of reunion, resurrection, and the sacred wedding, the Konyangsho. This is the philosopher's stone, not a magical object, but the inner unification of soul and spirit, body and mind. Jung called this the individuated self. It is not perfection, but integrity. A life lived from the center, from alignment with the deeper self. The ego no longer dominates, but serves. The goal of the individuation process is the synthesis of the self. The Rosarium Philosophorum speaks in the language of image, not argument. It reveals truths not through theory, but through story, symbol, and archetype. And Jung shows us that these images are not relics of a dead tradition. They are alive in us. Every crisis, every moment of loss, every spark of clarity, every breakthrough into authenticity. These are our personal alchemical operations. The Rosarium gives us a myth to live by, a symbolic guide for the transformations of soul that we are all alchemists. The question is not whether we will go through the fire, but whether we will allow it to transmute us. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the Rosarium Philosophorum and the alchemy of the soul. If you found resonance in these symbols, please like, share, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments. Which stage of the Rosarium do you feel you're in? How has your inner alchemy unfolded? Until next time, may you endure the Nigredo, cleanse through Albedo, awaken in Citrinitas, and embody your Rubedo.